Welcome to another episode of Peel Pod. You know, whenever we look back at a massive pop culture phenomenon, there is almost always this strange, jarring disconnect between how something was created and how the world actually ends up using it.
Oh, for sure. Once a piece of art goes through that whole pop machinery, it just sort of stops belonging to the artist, right?
Exactly. It starts belonging to the public. And rarely is that disconnect as wild as the story we are digging into today. Because, I mean, we are looking at a song that was born out of a deeply vulnerable, intimate therapy session.
Yeah, a very real personal breakthrough.
Right. Yet, within a matter of months, that same intimate breakthrough somehow ended up angering an entire NFL fan base and triggering this masterclass in corporate cross-promotion that was disguised as a plagiarism scandal.
It really is wild. And don't forget, it also fielded all this criticism over a music video where an elephant gets a pedicure.
I still can't believe that video.
Yeah.
But that is exactly what we are exploring in this deep dive. We are looking at Katy Perry's 2013 mega hit, Roar.
A massive track.
Truly. Now, if you, the listener, were anywhere near a radio, a television, or literally any sporting event in the 2010s, Roar is probably permanently lodged in your brain.
Oh, it was inescapable.
It really was.
Yeah.
But looking past just the sheer catchiness of it, this track is a fascinating cultural artifact. Like, looking at the sources we have, it sold 15 million copies globally.
Which is just a staggering number to even wrap your head around.
Right. And it became a diamond-certified song, which, just to clarify the industry math on that for everyone listening, that means it moved over 10 million equivalent units in the United States alone.
It's a monumental achievement, but, you know, getting there required just an unbelievable amount of calculation.
Absolutely. And to understand those mechanics, like how a song actually reaches that level of cultural saturation, we really have to rewind to early 2013.
Yeah, we have to look at the intense pressure cooker that Katy Perry was in at that time, because at this point, she's coming off the Teenage Dream album era.
Right, which wasn't just, like, a successful album. It was a historic juggernaut. I mean, it tied Michael Jackson's Bad for the most #1 singles from a single album.
Precisely. 5 #1 singles. So when she steps into the studio in March of 2013 to start working on her next project, the industry expectations are just crushing.
I can't even imagine that kind of pressure.
It's intense. She isn't just trying to write a good song, you know? She is basically tasked with sustaining an empire.
Right. The stakes are astronomical.
So to do that, she travels to studios in California and Sweden to work with this brain trust that had essentially solved the mathematical formula for human attention.
Oh, you mean the pop heavyweights?
Exactly. We are talking about producers and writers like Dr. Luke, Max Martin, Circuit, and Bonnie McKee.
So she is surrounded by the absolute architects of modern pop. But what I found really interesting in our source material is that the actual seed for Roar wasn't some cynical boardroom calculation.
No, not at all. It actually came from a very real personal crisis.
Yeah, Perry was very open about the fact that the song's concept emerged after she started going to therapy.
Right. She had reached this breaking point in her personal life. She explicitly stated that she was, quote, sick of keeping all these feelings inside and not speaking up for myself.
Which is such a relatable human feeling.
It really is. And Bonnie McKee, who co-wrote the track, she described this moment in the studio as an epiphany. It was always envisioned as this, like, dust yourself off anthem.
So the goal was to take that very private feeling of finally finding your voice and just externalizing it.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's unpack the mechanics of that for a second.
Sure.
Because there is a huge leap between, you know, crying on a therapist's couch and having a song that dominates global radio.
Oh, a massive leap.
It is essentially like taking the most raw, vulnerable pages of your personal diary and just sliding them across a mixing board to a team of literal sonic scientists.
That's a great way to put it.
And asking them to engineer it into this arena rock explosion. How exactly did Max Martin and that production team translate an intimate therapy breakthrough into that booming, massive sound of Roar?
Well, they did it by heavily relying on the psychology of music theory. Like, if you want a song to physically feel like empowerment, you have to build it using specific structural architecture.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Musically, Roar is rooted in a B-flat major key. And in music theory, B-flat major is often associated with a sense of triumph, clarity, and this bold optimism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually the key a lot of brass instruments are tuned to, which is what gives it that expansive fanfare quality.
That makes total sense. Like, it feels bright but heavy at the same time.
Exactly. Bright but heavy. And then you pair that with a moderate tempo of 90 beats per minute.
Why 90 BPM specifically?
Well, 90 BPM is crucial because it closely mirrors the human heart rate during a brisk walk.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, so it subconsciously creates this steady, resolute marching momentum. You aren't sprinting, you aren't relaxed, you are purposefully moving forward.
That is so calculated.
It is. And then the producers layered in these pounding piano-driven chords and these booming bass drums to basically mimic the scale of arena rock.
Right, to make it sound huge.
And finally, Perry utilizes her impressive vocal range to deliver these repeated chanting like, hey, vocalizations in the background.
Oh, I can hear that in my head right now.
Right. Every single technical choice is designed to take that quiet feeling of speaking up and physically project it to the back rows of a football stadium.
It's fascinating how engineered the emotion is. But, I mean, creating the perfect anthem in a vacuum isn't enough, right?
Not at all.
Translating that studio product into a cultural phenomenon requires a massive marketing rollout. And this is where the strategy gets really interesting to me.
Because of the rebrand.
Yes, because to sell this new empowered version of herself, Perry essentially had to publicly execute her past persona.
That is exactly what she did. The rollout for Roar, which was serving as the lead single for her upcoming 2013 album Prism, it had to clearly signal a tonal shift to the public.
Right, because the teenage dream era was defined by all those candy aesthetics.
Yeah, literal peppermint dresses, cotton candy clouds, and bright pastels.
And if you want audiences to take a fierce empowerment anthem seriously, you have to break their existing parasocial attachment to that cartoonish image.
And she did that in the most theatrical, literal way possible.
The marketing campaign was just brilliant. For the listener who might not remember, they released these short, really dark video teasers.
They were so moody.
Super moody. In one, you just see Perry striking a match and burning the iconic blue wig she wore in her previous music video.
Just setting fire to the past.
Exactly. And in another teaser, she's attending a somber funeral. You look inside the coffin, and it's holding her famous pink and white pinwheels dress.
She was actively telling the public, like, the old, sweet Katy Perry is dead. Prepare for something darker and much more fierce.
It was such an effective way to manage consumer expectations.
It was. And the label, Capitol Records, they had this massive multi-week PR timeline meticulously plotted out for all of this.
I can imagine.
The teasers dropped in early August, and it was all building up to an official American release on August 12th.
Okay, so a very rigid schedule.
Right, which would then be immediately followed by a massive mainstream radio push on August 13th. It was basically a tightly coiled spring ready to be released.
Right. But, as we know, in the music industry, no matter how much money you spend planning, chaos always gets a vote.
Always.
And on August 10th, just 2 days before the meticulously planned release, the song leaked online.
A label's worst nightmare.
Truly. Now, normally when I think of an unreleased song leaking in the 2010s, I think of absolute catastrophe.
Yeah, historically it's terrible for sales.
Right. You lose control of the narrative, people pirate the low-quality audio, and it completely undercuts your physical and digital sales. I assume Capitol Records went into a total panic.
They absolutely scrambled. But, this is where we see the difference between a rigid rollout and an adaptable one.
What do they do?
Well, instead of trying to plug the leak or, send out endless cease and desist letters to take down all the pirated versions, Capitol Records decided to pivot instantly.
Wow. So they just accepted it.
They abandoned their original timeline entirely and officially released the track to digital retailers early, basically beating the pirates at their own game.
They just opened the floodgates themselves. That takes guts.
It does. And rather than cannibalizing their momentum, the early release actually acted as a massive catalyst. It capitalized on the sheer panic and buzz of the leak.
Did it translate to sales, though?
Oh, big time. In its first week on sale, Roar sold 557,000 digital copies.
That is a staggering number for a single week.
It really is. To put it in perspective for you, that gave Perry the highest first-week sales numbers of any song in all of 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And more importantly for her career, it shattered her own personal record. Her previous biggest digital sales week was for Firework, which sold about 509,000 copies.
So the leak, combined with that aggressive digital pivot, actually created a sense of urgency that traditional marketing simply couldn't have bought.
Exactly. It was a massive win out of a potential disaster.
But of course, the second you have the biggest song in the world, you also have the biggest target on your back.
Oh, the controversy started almost immediately.
Right. Almost the instant Roar hit the airwaves, it ran into a massive wall of controversy. We have to talk about the plagiarism allegations, because this is where the industry machinations get incredibly clever.
Yes. So the moment Roar was released, music critics and fans started pointing out these glaring similarities between Perry's track and a song called Brave by the singer-songwriter Sarah Bareilles.
Right, which had been released a few months prior, I believe.
Exactly, and the internet was just convinced it was a direct ripoff.
People were uploading all those mashups to YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Layering the vocals over each other.
Yeah, pointing out that both songs had this very similar mid-tempo, piano-driven, inspirational structure.
Because both were essentially empowerment anthems with a very similar marching cadence.
Exactly. And usually, when public opinion turns this sharply against a massive hit, it ends up in a bitter, protracted, multi-million-dollar copyright lawsuit.
Right, that is the standard industry playbook, especially back in the 2010s. We saw so many of those lawsuits.
Constantly.
But the way this specific tension was resolved is just a fascinating case study in public relations. Because Sarah Bareilles completely refused to take the bait.
She handled it so well.
She really did. Instead of filing an injunction or, drumming up outrage, she gave interviews stating that she and Perry were actually longtime friends.
Right, she shut down the feud narrative instantly.
Yeah, Bareilles expressed deep frustration at the public's reaction. She pointed out how toxic it was to put a negative spin on two female artists who were simply trying to release positive, uplifting music.
Which is such a refreshing take.
It is. She even went on record saying she had heard Roar before it was officially released and had absolutely no issue with it.
Her stance essentially neutralized the drama overnight.
She just said, if I'm not mad about it, I don't know why any of you are upset.
Mm-hmm.
It was an incredible show of grace.
It was. And behind the scenes, Perry's producer, Dr. Luke, took to Twitter to claim that Roar was actually written and recorded before Brave was even released to the public, aiming to shut down the timeline of the theft allegations entirely.
Right, just putting a hard stop to the rumors.
But, the real genius here isn't just how the artists handled it, it's how Sarah Bareilles' label, Epic Records, responded.
Right, because a record label isn't usually known for letting go of potential lawsuit money just because the artists happen to be friends.
Exactly. But Epic Records recognized a much more lucrative opportunity here. Like, a lawsuit is expensive, it takes years, and it often makes the artist look bitter.
True.
But public outrage, that is free marketing.
Right.
Because thousands of people were searching for Brave online just to compare it to Roar, Epic Records aggressively pivoted. They capitalized on the plagiarism controversy by promoting Brave heavily to mainstream pop radio. Oh, that is so smart.
Yeah, just riding the massive SEO wave generated by Katy Perry's hit.
Instead of suing the wave, you just grab a surfboard.
Exactly.
So Roar survives the leak. It skates past a plagiarism scandal by inadvertently boosting the song it supposedly copied.
Right.
And that brings us to the visual representation. Because since they engineered this to be a massive stadium anthem, the music video couldn't just be Katy Perry standing in a recording booth.
No, it had to be huge.
They had to match the sheer ridiculous scale of the audio.
And they fully committed to that scale.
Oh.
The video, which was directed by Grady Hall and Mark Kudzi, was filmed at the Los Angeles County Arboretum and Botanic Garden.
Okay.
And they leaned entirely into a literal, high-budget, Queen of the Jungle survivalist motif.
The plot of this video is pure, unfiltered 2010s camp.
Oh, completely.
Like, let me just set the scene for you listening to show how wild this is. Perry survives a plane crash in the middle of a dense jungle, right?
Yeah, classic survival setup. She crawls out of the wreckage with her boyfriend, who is this terribly vain, self-obsessed guy who just wants to take selfies and forces her to carry all the heavy luggage.
Yeah, the absolute worst guy.
But karma is swift because a tiger immediately emerges from the jungle and eats him.
Leaving her completely alone to fend for herself.
Right. And rather than being terrified, she has this massive empowerment arc. She brushes a live crocodile's teeth with a toothbrush she salvaged from the crash.
As one does.
Naturally. She takes off her stiletto heel and fashions it into a spear.
Very practical.
Oh, it gets better. She takes a shower while a literal elephant sprays water from his trunk, and then she paints the elephant's toenails with crushed berry juice.
Just absolute peak camp.
And then, for the grand finale, she confronts the very tiger that ate her boyfriend. She has a literal screaming match, like a roar-off with the tiger, and forces it to submit.
Right, and by the end, the tiger is sitting next to her, wearing a collar that says Katy Perry.
It is incredibly dense, with visual gags. It draws really heavily from those old pulpy serials like Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
Yeah, and, critics were heavily divided on it. Some praised the pure, unabashed campiness of it, while others found the CGI to be incredibly dopey.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, and some thought the product placement scattered throughout the jungle was just super distracting.
It's hard to take it completely seriously when she's, giving a pedicure to an elephant. I assume the backlash was just people laughing at the camp aesthetic.
Well, not exactly. The aesthetic was polarizing, sure, but the actual backlash was much more serious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about a month after the video dropped, PETA People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals launched a very public accusation against Perry.
Oh, no. Over the animals in the video.
Yes. They claim that the production used exotic animals supplied by a company with a documented history of cruelty. PETA argued that using wild animals for entertainment subjects them to extreme confinement and often involves violent training methods.
That is a massive PR crisis. You have a song whose entire thesis is about finding your voice and standing up for yourself.
Right.
And suddenly you're being accused of exploiting voiceless animals to promote it. How do you even respond to an accusation like that without sounding defensive?
The nuance of how Perry's team handled this is crucial because they didn't rely on, a PR spin. They relied on institutional receipts.
What do you mean?
Well, Perry's camp obtained and publicly released a letter from the American Humane Association.
Okay, so a third party?
Exactly. And this wasn't just a generic denial. The letter explicitly stated that AHA representatives were physically present on the set for the entire 3-day shoot.
Oh, wow. So they were monitoring the whole thing.
Yes. The association verified that all strict guidelines for the safe treatment of animals in filmed media were followed, and they confirmed that absolutely no animals were harmed during the production.
So they had an independent authority completely back up their production methods, which I imagine quickly deflated the controversy.
It pretty much ended the discussion right there.
And honestly, it seems like absolutely nothing could slow this song's momentum. When you look at the raw statistics provided in the sources, the cultural dominance is staggering.
The scale is almost hard to comprehend, honestly.
Give us the numbers.
Well, Roar became the 5th best-selling single globally for the entire year of 2013.
Global. Not just U.S., global.
Global. It topped the charts in countries spanning the globe from Australia to Austria, Canada, Ireland, Israel, Lebanon, South Korea, the UK, and the U.S.
That is everywhere.
And in the U.S., it spent 2 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 before finally being dethroned by Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball.
Oh, what a year for pop music.
I know, right? It even set airplay records, becoming the most weekly played song in history at the time, on both the pop songs and adult pop songs charts.
It was literally inescapable. But, this brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of a song achieving this level of global ubiquity. Because even when a track is mathematically engineered for mass appeal, like we talked about, and tops the charts in a dozen countries, it doesn't mean it works in every single setting.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. If you put it in the wrong context, it can completely backfire.
You are referring to the Cincinnati Bengals incident.
I am absolutely referring to the Cincinnati Bengals fumble. Because this is a perfect example of a cultural mismatch.
It really is.
So it's September 2013. Roar is the biggest song on the planet. The Cincinnati Bengals, an NFL franchise, look at their team. They have a tiger mascot. Their stadium is famously known as the Jungle. And they look at Katy Perry's song about roaring and tigers.
You can see the logic.
Right. Someone in the front office decides, this is perfect. Let's use Roar as the hype music for our player introductions on Monday Night Football.
Which, just to set the stakes, is a massive primetime game against their bitter divisional rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine the scene for a second. You are trying to hype up a stadium. You have these massive armored gladiators preparing to run onto a muddy field to engage in brutal physical combat.
Right.
And instead of heavy metal or intense hip-hop, the stadium speakers start blasting glossy 90-beat-per-minute B-flat major pop music about a therapy breakthrough.
It completely undercuts the psychological aggression required for the sport.
It was a disaster. The Bengals fans were furious. The players were visibly uninspired. But honestly, the most humiliating part was the opposing team.
Oh, yeah. The Steelers' reaction was brutal.
Because the Pittsburgh Steelers famously used the classic, gritty 1978 rock song Renegade by Styx to hype up their defense. It's dark. It's intense. So Steelers fans sitting in the stadium were openly laughing at the Bengals as they trotted out to a Katy Perry track.
It was so bad.
The backlash in the city was so severe that just 4 days later, the Bengals organization had to issue a formal public apology to their fan base.
An apology over a song?
Yes, they had to officially promise they would switch the introduction music back to hard rock.
It's a brilliant example of how context alters meaning, though. Like, the song wasn't the problem, the application was.
Right.
Because if we look at where the song did work perfectly in the sports world, the contrast is incredibly sharp.
Tell me about Serena.
Well, just a year later, Serena Williams, arguably one of the most dominant athletes in human history, used Roar as her personal theme song at the 2014 U.S. Open.
Okay, but why does it work for Serena Williams and completely fail for a professional football team?
Because of the narrative. A football team is trying to project collective, intimidating aggression.
Right, violence, basically.
Yeah. But Roar isn't an aggressive song. It's a song about personal resilience and overcoming internal doubt.
Ah, okay.
So for Serena Williams, who was fighting through injuries and this intense media scrutiny at the time, the narrative of individual triumph was a perfect fit.
That makes total sense.
She even wore a matching leopard-themed dress during the tournament and ended up winning the championship. And in that context, the song felt incredibly powerful.
It aligns perfectly with the story of a single person conquering their obstacles.
Mm.
And that adaptability allowed the song to thrive in some wildly diverse environments.
Absolutely. Once you divorce it from the need to be, tough, it functions beautifully as an anthem for resilience.
Like the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. Perry performed it at the 2015 Super Bowl halftime show, riding a massive animatronic lion to universal acclaim.
Such an iconic moment.
And it was used extensively at the 2016 Democratic National Convention to underscore political themes of empowerment and breaking barriers.
It really just molded to whatever empowerment message was needed.
It even transcended American politics. It found a place in royal history when it was performed at the Coronation concert for King Charles III in 2023.
Wow.
Yeah, as long as the core message of individual triumph aligns with the event, the song works flawlessly.
So when we step back and look at the entire life cycle of this artifact, we've traced a path from a deeply personal frustration shared in the therapist's office, through a leaked digital scramble, past a brilliant cross-promotional plagiarism defense, into an apologetic NFL stadium, and finally to a royal coronation.
It really is the ultimate testament to the transformative, almost alchemy-like power of the pop machinery.
It really is.
Now, it is important to note that the critical reception wasn't universally glowing, despite the success.
Right. Critics are rarely kind to pure pop.
Many critics felt the machinery was a bit too obvious. Reviewers from Billboard criticized the lyrics for relying on very easy, predictable cliches and rhymes.
I mean, they aren't wrong. It is very straightforward.
True. And Sal Cinquemani from Slant magazine gave a particularly sharp critique. He argued that despite the heavy production, the song felt, quote, more of a yelp than a roar.
Ouch. So they felt the polish actually stripped away the genuine emotion.
Exactly. But ultimately, in the realm of pop music, the global metrics often override the critics. With over 4 billion views on its campy YouTube video and diamond certification across multiple borders, the core emotional message clearly survived the machinery. Max Martin and Dr. Luke took a universal human feeling, that desperate desire to finally be heard, and amplified it to a scale where the entire globe could sing along to it.
Which leaves us with a really provocative tension to think about, I think. We live in an era of music where audiences constantly demand authenticity, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We want our artists to be raw, unfiltered, and deeply real. Yet the story of Roar proves that a highly manufactured, focus-grouped, mathematically engineered pop song, complete with an elephant pedicure and a corporate PR rollout, can still be profoundly, authentically therapeutic for millions of people.
It is a wild paradox.
It really forces you to ask, can something be perfectly plastic and perfectly real at the exact same time?
That paradox is the exact reason why pop music remains one of the most fascinating cultural forces we have.
It truly is. Thanks for listening to PSL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.